to see you as I make sure the oil is changed in the bus and that the tires at the proper inflation and because we all know about inflation. But anyway, we are here, and if you're here, then you're here in our space and we're in your space, which means you're in our head and we're in your head. Hmm. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. It's Tuesday, and this is a second look. It's our ongoing show. And thank all of you, everyone in the chat room. So good to see you. Let me just speak favor over us real quick. Yeah, got to do that. Never have
Absolutely.
enough favor. Yeah, absolutely. I got some stories on that one. And nothing missing, nothing broken. We always like to live that reality. So, uh, again, you know who I am. My lovely co-host, Miss Trina Phoenix. How are you, my dear? Good to see you.
Good to see you. And hi, Soul Tribe. I love you all. And it's always better when I'm seeing you, Wayne.
Geez, you're gonna
It's just
make
true.
me blush.
It's
Well,
just true.
it's a dynamic duel now, and we've been here for years.
Years,
Years.
years. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Taken
Geez.
quite a journey through consciousness.
Oh, it
And,
has been.
when you look back to from the beginning and now where we are with our consciousness, it's so bigger, just so much
Yeah,
bigger.
it's expanded. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the growth. I've seen the growth of so many people, and we're just learning so much.
Yeah, it's amazing the growth of this group, this family. I look at Gaia. How are you,
Yeah.
darling? And say hi to Paul, Boston Space, Rick, Lauren, Ginger Grin. How are you, my dear? So good to see you. And Wendy, and Snotty Boy is in the house, and we love you. Off the hook, good to see you. Elderberry, Shirley, just everybody. Thank you. Now,
Deborah?
Deborah, can't forget Deborah Sloan. She is
No.
like,
One of
when
the
I was in,
fabrics of our weave.
yeah,
She's one
yeah.
of the fabrics of our weave. Yes.
She's like the mama bear. Don't mess
Yeah.
with the
It
group.
was,
Hey, Go, how are you doing? What
yeah,
was that,
hi,
hon?
Jojo. I was contemplating God the other day, and it was really cool. They showed me how, like, the masculine and the feminine participate, and it was so beautiful. There were spiders and cosmic weaving of webs, and oh, it was just amazing. Just
Wow.
amazing.
I used to go
Yeah.
outside on the deck and meditate, but we've got like, I don't know, 500 million cicadas out there, and it's deafening.
That sound they're making sounds a little different to me. Does it to you than
uh,
the sound of the cicadas before?
I, you know, I remember the last time I encountered these bugs, I was producing a video and we were doing an on-location shoot. And I was the director and the producer, and it was when the 17-year cicadas, anyway, my sound guy, he just threw off his headphones and just let down the boom mic and said, "Screw this! I can't hear anything but them." And so
Right.
as I
They
hear
win.
this this cacophony of critters, yeah, I don't know. It sounds like the same, but there's two different types too. The
Oh,
second
see, I didn't
brood,
know that.
yeah, the second brood is emerging. So, and so I've been working outside, folks. I've seen the emails. Thank you. I just, I'm putting in like 8 9 hour days, and literally when I get back in the house, I am just exhausted. And I try
Yeah,
to
that's
start.
me every day, Wayne.
Yeah, yeah, and I try to start early because it gets light at 5:30 now. So I try
Yeah.
to get out there about 6 or 6:15 to beat the heat. And yeah, they're the thing about it is they're flying. And so I'm mowing on Saturday, and they kept on getting on the back of my neck. And I mean, they got
Oh,
these red eyes and the
no,
long
no, no.
legs, and and they're fluttering their wing, and it's I'm I'm going on this tractor just riding along and I'm thinking, this is a fucking horror story. That's all it is, and they're everywhere. So anyway,
Oh, how long does it last?
we are told about middle of July.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this too shall pass, but oh boy.
Yeah, yeah. And then at night we have the frogs. We have some ponds
I
around here.
Brian sent me a video and I was like, wow, they are really loud. They were really croaking. I was like,
I think they got a
oh, that,
contest going on. I mean,
you
who
know,
can get the highest decibel.
you know what I keep hearing? It, Gaia, Mother Earth is saying we are recoding the vibration. So these sounds, I'm telling you, they all seem a little bit different to me. It's like a new vibration is coming in, and they are part of the ones bringing it in. They're doing it.
Well, they're doing it with excellence. That's all I
Yeah, they
know. It's
are.
just
They're playing.
Christ. I mean, and so Rocky, his daughter's dog, so he was on the porch and there were a couple that were landed there and one latched onto his nose and the dog just freaked out.
With
I
her.
mean, just freaked out, man. I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, if I had one attached to my nose, no way.
Right.
Joyce,
Get off.
it's crazy. I mean, but it's nature, it's a cycle.
Yes.
And I kind of just observe it all because, they say the next time these will be around is 17 years from now. I may or may not be here. I don't know. We may or may not be here. It's kind of crazy because the world's going crazy. I mean, we keep saying that, but it really is becoming, I don't
Evident.
know.
You
Yeah,
can't deny it anymore. You can't
bingo.
say, "Oh yeah, things are okay. They're normal." No, mm-mm,
No. Mm.
no.
So I'll recant on Saturday, I went to one of the stores here early and again like about 6:30 they opened up at 6. So I went in there and right across the street is a National Guard armory and it was buzzing. I mean,
Wow.
Freudian slip, but there was just a lot of people, a lot of activity. And which, said, okay, it's like they may have been on maneuvers. I noticed that the Humvees, they were where they have the top mount, they had a lot of what I would call these LARD systems, loud area display disbursement. They're used. And so anyway, I as I'm checking out, there were like three guardsmen that were in there, and the one particularly I remember was he was a captain, and I think there was like a sergeant major, I don't know, there. And I thanked them for their service, and I just off the cuff said, "So, what are y'all training for? Riot control?" And this captain turned at me and he said, "Yeah." He says, they keep us busy." And they walked out and I paid for my grocery what I was getting. So I'm walking out the door and here's this captain and three or four of the guys and he walks over and he comes over and he says, "Sir," it's interesting. You're getting at a certain age where they call you sir and you're going, okay.
Right.
Uh, he said, "Just curious, what made you say, training for riots?" I said, "Well," I said, "the enemy is already here. They let him in." And I
Mhm.
said, to be quite honest with you, sir," I called him sir. I mean, I said it was really more, just off the top of my head.
Mhm.
He said, "Well," he said, "it's interesting." He says,
Mhm.
"Because that's exactly what we're training for."
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
as he began to turn away, and he said, "One other thing." He says, "You're right about another thing." He said, "The enemy
Is
is
here.
here."
Yeah,
Exactly what he said.
yeah.
And
I
I
love it though that what he thought was so unobservable, you showed him how simply it was observed. and how the consciousness is everybody's on the same page and we're all in a similar conclusion to the
Hmm.
situation. And I think that was good for him to see that, you know what, this is good because you know what, there's more than just who we think are that are aware. So it's good. I think it
Yeah,
was
this
good for
is
him to hear that.
it's interesting because
Mhm.
we live out in a rural part, and it's quite, I mean, it was obvious to me. I knew what those large systems look like. And so, but here again, and there's another thing I'm seeing in the stores. Um, we saw this at two of the national chains and um, Walmart as well. They're doing a lot of fronting. And fronting is where they will put one package or two package on the shelf to make the shelves look full.
Yeah.
But if you could actually see down on top of them, you would begin to realize is that there's becoming larger gaps. We're seeing um, vegetables. There are certain canned goods that are seem to be in uh, lower supply of amounts. So I don't know. If
You
the
know what too
guardsmen are
I
telling me
found?
they're training for riots, that tells me I am convinced, regardless of which guy wins, let's hope the
What if
best
this
one.
is food riots, Wayne? Because I keep
Oh, I
seeing
think
this
it's going to
might.
be food
Yeah,
riots.
I
Yeah,
think this might
yeah,
be food because
yeah.
they got something interesting happening in Oklahoma right now. Like they just arrested two farmers with no ticket, no reason, no trial, no see a judge, and then they kept them for 30 days each, and they're trying to shut down their small farm, their dairy farm,
Mm.
and then they got like one district in Oklahoma just shut down 24 hobby farms and small farms and told these people, sent them letters saying that they could no longer sell any produce at the farmers markets. So
Yeah.
I don't know what is going on with this, but it seems like it's popping up.
It's going to be food riots. I mean, we're seeing it here. And like I said, we live in a rural setting, country. And, you know, food has become so expensive.
Yeah.
I last week or so, I walked out. I had five plastic bags in my hand, and the guy walking in said, "So what'd that cost you? $500?" I said, but jokingly we say that, but it is becoming, and regardless of how YouTube wants to do this or whatever, the fact is that we have an invasion that's taken place here in the United States, and we can't feed 20 million people. We can't feed another 2 or 3 million. And uh
And then they're shutting down the small farmers. It's like,
but
do people not realize what's going on here? This is, remember I told you years ago, the child prophet in that vision, she was talking about the Hunger Games, that would be the end of would be the biggest thing that would be attempted for us would not be like what we think is these normal wars. No, it would be about this. It would be about food. And I was like,
wow,
that's powerful. Wow.
Mr. Floyd just wrote, he says you have to go through an electronic gate to get into the local Kroger and King Supers
Wow.
now. Wow. Yeah. I mean, this is a serious problem. We've known
Yeah.
since this administration came in, and there's a website dedicated to this. And even Snoops has confirmed it. It's a verified. So in the last 3 years, and particularly since Biden came in, 1,120 something food processing or associated food process manufacturers have burned down
Yep.
and or declared bankruptcy and have
Yep.
shut down.
Yep.
And they're doing it now with the chickens.
Yep.
They're saying now in Colorado is where I read this, that they're holding 40, I believe, 30 to 40 workers, and these are people that apparently work on a farm with chickens and what have you, with suspected avian flu. So there's this mass culling taking place of chickens because chicken is the cheapest form of protein outside of bugs.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yes.
I don't think bugs taste like chicken, but what do I know? I don't eat them. So, and they're
What
doing
people don't
now.
understand is that we can't process bugs. There's
Yeah.
part of the ectoskeleton that literally destroys our cells because it's like fiberglass. It's not meant to be ingested for humans. It's just, it's not good for the GI
What?
tract of a human
What?
being. So it's like, I don't know why they're
What?
thinking this is an option.
Ingesting insects?
Bugs.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
listen,
they
they're
say it's not good
already,
for you.
well, they have, if you look in your stores now, you're finding more and more product that have these insects, the
Bugs.
crickets and what have you. So, but the
Yeah.
thing about where the chickens are concerned is that this is when you start to cull 500,000 chickens, or maybe more than that by now, I think it's into the millions, that has an effect.
Yeah.
Supplies, it goes through the supply chain. You have people now that particularly the ones they've let in, where these states and these cities, sanctuary cities, have basically are feeding them off the taxpayer. Eventually, the taxpayer is going to get tapped out. Denver is one city that is already realizing this problem, and Denver is not alone. It's in every city here. Yes, so food riots, where we started out with, this is what I think is going to be the big deal. When you can't eat, people do crazy stuff. It's
Yep.
true.
Off the
Yeah.
hook. You're cracking me up today. We
What
were
is
not
what?
meant to eat bugs.
Hey,
Don't eat the
listen,
bugs.
right there with you on that. I mean,
Right. Don't eat the bugs.
I
No.
just it and crickets, and and you're going, okay, so it's crickets, what's
No.
next? Worms? I mean, no, 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 no. But this is the reality. It's kind of the title of this. Why are we descending instead of ascending? This is just it's leading to, and people, we like to be positive here, like we be upbeat, and we study things that, not necessarily do we talk about these, but these are becoming issues that um
Yeah.
Lynn and I, and this is not, we seem to be in the proximity where we have observed certain families putting stuff back,
Mhm.
and we'll pay for that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just what we do. I've
Yeah.
always given food.
That's favor, baby.
Yeah, well, because growing up as a kid, I was hungry.
That's
My
right. You
mother,
know.
yeah, my
Yeah.
mother's husband, he was an alcoholic. He drank the paycheck.
Yeah.
And
See, we were
my,
we were lucky. We had food, Wayne, but we did that too. The kids knew to come to my mom if they were in trouble. They knew. I told them, I said, you got a problem? If I can't fix it, my mom can. And they would go to my mom and she would fix it. We took many families over a couple weeks worth of food several times because they needed it. So we were grateful to do it.
Scotty Boy says, what will you do for a cricket bar? But
Not much.
so I remember that. And, when I was on my own, I never was hungry, and I have always given away food. And
Yeah.
it's the seed and the harvest. And I believe that, if you want, it's a principle. If you give away food so that others can eat, you're sowing that seed, and it will always manifest itself back, that which you've given.
Yes, it will. A
Yeah,
hundredfold, a hundred
I've
times
seen
over.
it.
Yeah.
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 We've given away cars,
Mhm.
and it's just how we do things, and it always comes back. Always. Just anyway.
Yeah.
So, how's everyone in the chat room?
They're
Hey,
doing great.
Gilbert,
They're
good to
lively
see.
and they're making me
Yeah,
laugh.
yeah, clever Gypsy Howie says the harshness is we eat a lot more than what we need to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember being in some mind forms back in the late 90s, And even then, it was one of these panels that where we discussed, you know, and I'm surprised the technology companies haven't figured this out, because here's the problem. And maybe someone who hears this on replay or even someone that's listening live. So if you look at grocery stores, because of in many cases, there are archaic local codes, rules, and what have you, many grocery stores are forced to throw out food that otherwise is very safe and very edible. There are smaller organizations that try to come in, but again, they're limited because many times of the local community's laws. But it was a problem 30 years ago, and it's still a problem today, is that we throw so much food away that if the food alone of what we throw away could make, without the invasion of all these human beings coming into our country, if we were to look at, for instance, veteran groups, there's just a number of groups that could use this food.
Yes.
But because we're so insane, and humans are insane, we make these ridiculous rules, and then we expect law enforcement to come in. I've seen the advocacy of this, where people will do the dumpster diving for
Yeah.
food, and then they
Yeah.
get arrested.
Yeah.
They're already homeless and they're
Right.
hungry. And so then, because of the stupid community, the city laws,
Uh-huh.
because most politicians have their head up their ass anyway, they have shit for brains, and then they arrest them. And now you've got them into where, custody.
Hmm.
Um, and they can't afford to get back out. They can't afford to. It's nuts. But anyway, if you could figure a solution out of how to begin to change local community laws, and and still observing food safety, stores know what they can keep and what isn't, proper. And my point to all this is that there's a solution right there in front of us, but we ignore it.
No, it's not allowed. And that's the
Yeah.
problem. It's not allowed. And most of these organizations that are putting all these regulations in place are lobbyists, and they're just
Mm-hmm.
politicians. And the
Yeah.
politicians now, the agenda is working for people other than the people. They're working for the big money corporations because it's all about money. So this is where we have to get that going, is we have to defund and deregulate all of these
Someone
so-called
said,
three-letter agencies running all these regulations.
yeah. Okay. Joe Mack says, where I live, the place next door collects food you speak of from all over the country. Well, they ought to spread that out. They should do more PR. If they have a solution, but again, in some communities, it's you just, because of the way the laws, city councils and what have you have made. But anyway, yeah, off the hook. Yeah, it's corporate America.
Wow.
Or start creating your own, Gaia says. And that's interesting, Gaia, because there are different cities where you can't grow a garden.
No, actually, I think Obama made that global when he
I
was
mean,
back in office with an
yeah.
executive order. So I
Uh,
think that started back a long time ago, but now they're just enforcing it.
yeah, Wesley says, law shall be passed in the U.S. that if you may not enter a store or buy food unless you are brand, with a mark. Yeah. Our stores, Nina said, give the expired food to the food banks here, the stuff that is so expensive, no one is buying it. Yeah. And I know that's another issue. The food banks, they're under tremendous strain. I mean, this administration tries to point out to this rosy economy, and that's not true. It's just the opposite out there. And I don't know. And as you look at these problems that we're talking about, they're insane, because we're supposed to have technology, right? Technology is supposed to enlighten us. Where is AI? Where is the Microsofts and the Googles? I mean, we live under the tyranny of these companies, and they're all tyrannical. So why aren't you? Oh, that's right, because Bill Gates is buying up all the farmland. And then we
Right.
then we're making it in our state here where they're going to be kicking the Chinese out because they've been doing dirty shit under the law.
Yeah.
But we have China buying up U.S. prime farmland, or you got the oligarchs like Bill Gates and others that are buying millions of acres of farmland.
Mhm.
And, for what? It,
Bottom
it,
line
it,
is, I don't, with what he's done with his decisions, with what he's given people, I don't want him producing
I
my
don't want
food.
him doing a
And
damn
I should
thing.
have a right not to have him produce my food. There's so many fights right now over water rights. They're telling these farmers they can't farm their little acre of land anymore because of the water rights. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
really, water doesn't leave the planet. So there's truly there's something going on here. It's not there's trying to stop the water, trying to stop the food. What does that tell you?
Well, the
Humans,
food,
water,
well, look
and
at
food.
Monsanto. Monsanto was sued because of the crap, the herbicides and the insecticides. So we've contaminated ourselves. The quality of food is basically it's dead food, has very little nutrient value in it. And the food that you find with nutrients, quote unquote, are many times supplanted with chemicals. I mean, this is just crazy. Uh,
It's and we have so many immune problems, and they're finding such a direct link to the foods, that
I
we're
need
consuming,
to
the
stop
sugar.
you right there. Hold on. This
Yeah.
Wesley, um, buddy, I appreciate that you have your point of view, but in here, we all know the Jesus character, and I'm just saying, back off. This is not a form to proselytize. You have other areas you can do that, but this one here is a proselytized free zone. So appreciate the comments, appreciate you being active in there. But again, you're bordering on things that could be considered offensive. And hey, we don't play that game here. So tone it down, or I'll be the one that'll put you in timeout. Um,
Mhm.
no freedom of speech. No, 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 no. You see, we are the YouTube owns the platform, and there is no freedom
Right.
of speech. First of all,
Correct.
you've got to get that illusion out. That is a
Mhm.
myth. Freedom of
Yeah.
speech does not exist. All speech is controlled, all speech is censored.
Hmm.
That's just reality.
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately.
guys, let's just go ahead and let Wesley be in and delete. Yes.
I
Deborah,
already
thank
got it.
you.
I'm like, they got you, Wayne.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They got you.
you know, you just sometimes got to do it. I mean, listen, we're talking serious issues, but we don't need to be come in here and then start going with the religion thing and saying, you see,
No,
that's the
because we're
sin,
we're 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 literally really really struggling and trying every day to get out of those programs.
Yes, and
That
then
is
I'll
a
tell you, geez.
90% of what we're doing is we're realizing so much of what we thought was absolute truth was complete lies.
Boy, and off the hook
So
says, see ya.
yeah, right.
Well, it's like Terrence Henderson. Someone sent me, and thank you, all you folks, Robert, and the rest of you have sent me some great emails. Um, have you seen Terrence
Yes,
McKenna?
Terrence McKenna.
Um,
Yeah.
is it McKenna? He's the actor, the black
Yeah,
guy.
he
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
actor, the black
yeah,
guy.
yeah,
No, it's not. But I know exactly what you're talking
yeah,
about, the
yeah,
math and everything.
yeah, yeah.
I think he's right.
I think
I
he's
think he is
absolutely spot
spot
on.
on. I
Yeah,
do too.
yeah,
I do too. I just
yeah.
think what a brilliant, brilliant mind. He's getting it. He's
Yeah,
so getting it.
I think as he pointed out, and I was thinking as I
Terrence
was
Howard. It's Howard.
Howard, thank
Thank
you,
you,
thank
Robert.
you. Yes, I see Peg, not Margaret. Yes, Terrence.
Yep,
And Shirley says he is a genius. I'm
he
just got,
is.
yeah, I mean, you listen to the one, someone sent me the link with Joe Rogan, and it was a long interview, but I like Joe.
Me too.
I think he's a good interviewer and he has some quality guests. And I thought that it was a fabulous interview to listen to. It's obvious that we've gotten it wrong. Someone
Yes.
we we have churches that still send people door to door.
Hmm.
And this happened yesterday. I was up on the scaffolding, and anyway, so was it there was two couples around my age, although they looked much older than I did, but and it was an interesting thing. They wanted to know if we went to church, and I said, no, we don't do that.
Hmm.
Well, do you know Jesus? And I said, well, I can say that we know of him. Well, he died for your sins. I said, yeah, but I said in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said that there is no sin. Well, we don't recognize that. But we'd love to have you. And I said, no, I don't think you really would love to have me. I said, I'm
Right.
the type of guy that you'll probably give me the left foot of fellowship out the door. This guy looked at me and he said, I have a sense that's happened before.
Right.
And I said, that's sort of a speak. And but they wanted to tell me about how much Jesus loved me. And when I said, well, I said, so where did Jesus's father come from? Well, that's the God of the Bible. I said, well, there's lots of gods in the Bible.
Right.
Which one?
Right. Which one?
The guy looks at me and he says, well, we look to the Hebrew God. I said, so the
Yahweh.
Father is the Old Testament God. Yeah. And then I threw and this is, and it always gets them. I said, so how does Deuteronomy 7 jive up with 1 Corinthians 13:4 and 8?
Right.
Well, the guy's wife, she's up there looking at this and she reads this. I am a jealous and angry God. I said, bingo.
Yeah.
And I said, I can quote to the other one. I did. I quoted it verbatim. I said, so how did those two meet? We thank
Right.
you very much. We wish you well and have
Have
a
a
great
great
day.
day.
Yeah,
That's
and we just want to say thank you for having all that all yeah.
I
Where
love it
did
that it scrambled their brain like an egg sandwich. I love it. I love it because
exactly?
that's what happened to me because I was like instructed by this being not to read the Bible until I was in my 33rd year of life. And
You
then
see that?
he instructed me, and this is what I was being shown. I am a jealous and angry God, but yet you should love everybody and never know it. I was like, and then he's like, which one's which? I was like, I am so confused. He was like, exactly. And,
And
and then and then he showed me the bond servants and selling off your daughters. And I was like, oh crap, all this stuff. And then it was like, do you know what it means to be bond servant? And I was like, oh, the lessons I was getting was so not what people in church were not telling me. I was like, this is something completely different. It's not the same.
so one of the things, and you were talking, I just recalled this. So in the book of Isaiah, it says in Isaiah 43, yeah, no, Isaiah 55 says, if you will come, um, and it says, I will forgive your sins and put them in the sea of forgetfulness, like they never existed. Well, if that's true, then how can there be a judgment? Because if you said, and by the way, that was before there was ever this murder that took place on a pole, supposedly. So if you have this God saying, well, listen, I will forget your sins and put them into the sea of forgetfulness and remember them no more. That means this God lied, because how could I have in the book of Revelation this great white throne judgment where I'm going to be judged for every word I speak and every action, right? Which means that really God is the Borg, because resistance is futile. They're going to assimilate me, because that's the only way judgment works. Because if you're going to judge me, then that means I'm being assimilated into a thought system that I didn't want to fucking be in to begin with. You talked earlier. It's very the tendrils that this mind virus does. I mean, it's deep. Anyway, what say you?
It is because we don't. Yeah, well, it's so interesting. I've been doing a lot of digging with this lately, is because remember I kept telling you how I'm now being shown how the body's technology and is connected to the stars and the planets, and it's literal technology, and that the whole system is being operated with technology. That's what produces a matrix. It's an intelligence of mirrors. It's about capturing the images from that which is unseen and bringing it into the material realms. And this is why we have the DNA. These are the blood. The blood, think about it. They tell you where you're at. You are in a body made of flesh. What are flesh contained of? The whole flesh body is made of a cell. Cell. What do they put you in when you're in prison? A cell. What do they want to do to contain you? Put you into a cell. So when you start to understand the construct, and you start to understand that in this construct we have light and darkness, and they aren't bad or good. They are properties of creation. So the magnetic, the Luna, the Mama, the magnetic forces, electromagnetic is the principle that solidifies everything into form. So when you start to understand these gods are reflections of creation, and there is a dark part and there is a light part. And just when you can see this creation in your body, like if you get thrown into the bowels of hell, you're going to go through the digestive system, and it's going to break you down and put you into the seeds for new life. I mean, it's so complex, but it's so simple when you can get above the details of the programs that we've been installed with.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's so
I
breaking
love
these
the comments
programs
in
is
here.
hard.
An atheist guide wrote that there isn't any difference between God and the devil. They both want to destroy the human. Hey,
I
listen,
can't
here's the thing about it. You
do
think
that.
about the process of how in the Western world we're taught that there's this hell and that this hell is fire and brimstone, but we know that in space that it's not fire, it's ice. And then you got
Yes,
this one thing that I've always found interesting in that book of Genesis when it talked about the Cain and Abel story, right? And this God, which is, I am convinced now, is no more than an ET. It's all it is. It's an alien.
could
Um,
be
and it said to Cain, "Where's your brother?" And he said, "Your brother's blood cries out to me." And I
from the
went,
soil.
because
Yep.
life is in the blood.
Yes.
There's a lot to that. I mean, if we
And
all
it's in a
did,
cell. A
it
blood
is a
is a
cell.
cell.
It is. And
It's a
well, if it all
cell.
comes down to a cell. Hey, David Barry.
It that's what they were showing me. It's like to get out of the higher vibratory realms into material realms, you have to be into a packet, because your light has to go into a container. Because if it's not in a container, it's uncontainable. It's
Yeah.
just movable. There's no form, no, you're not stuck in anything. You're just flowing with the energies of consciousness. And wherever you think about, you will instantly bring about.
Well,
So it's
blood has plasma too. Think about that.
yes, which is the connection between the ether and the
Yeah.
matter. It's
I
the
want to say
plasma.
hi to David Barry. Brother, I
Hi,
haven't seen you in a
David.
while. It's been a long time.
Much love, brother.
The Go-Go says, "What do you think? Are there more people or demons and angels?" I really don't think there's a difference between the demons. I mean, if you saw the show I did last Thursday with the side by sides and these camera shots, they're here. Um, they're portrayed as angel demons, but I'm telling you, they're not. There's, if anything, here's the problem. So if we're saying these angels and demons exist, then we're saying they're a prototype human.
Right.
I mean, otherwise,
I've seen demons. I've seen demons take over human bodies, and I've seen things that are not. There's no physics law. They broke all laws of physics, and these were
would
children.
they be
So
shapeshifters or would they, it demon
no,
possession?
they were possessed, taken over, because when the thing would get out of them, they would go back to normal.
So And when we say
So
demons, so what you're saying then they're associated with what, God?
everything is associated with God. There's no
But which
nothing.
God?
The one that created all of it is responsible for all of it, and there's only one that's responsible for all of it, and that is the consciousness that creates all of it. There's no
You see, and
division.
there's the conundrum where we get into the paradox, because if this God created everything, and then it means it created both good and evil, and therefore
Yeah.
it's, I mean, the insanity of that is that if you
But what if
created a,
what if God created us with free will? So we were the ones that created the evil. The evil didn't exist until we manifested it through, like you said, the murder of your brother. These things are what propagated.
in the
And
book of
also, too,
Isaiah, this
you got
God
to
said
think,
it created everything.
right? And you got to think if we were blended with the species that we were not intended to be blended with, which is a reptilian serpent, which will eat its own babies, if we were mingled with that, and it wasn't intended to be, but as we are creators of the creation, we were allowed to create.
So
So
you're
with
saying we
that,
created this.
I absolutely believe so. 100%. This has got nothing to do
Then
with God.
there,
This has to do with the children of God playing with God's creation
see,
and
I
level
don't
things to
believe
not
that
play
there
with.
is a God,
I
because
don't
it,
believe it's a person, Wayne. I believe it's a consciousness that creates all things.
well,
All
then,
it has the potential for all things to be created out of that potential of consciousness.
you
And
see,
I believe
again,
it is in a
when you talk
myriad
about
of
this,
packet, packets of God come out of God. So within these packets, there's never the whole picture, but attached to the fractal is the ability to connect to the full. But many of us can't get past our own membrane to reconnect with what truly is available.
you see,
But that's our own
it's interesting
separation.
when you get into these type of conversations, because for me, you know, and the problem is I studied the Bible, and
I
there's
know that
others that,
program, man.
I
Woo!
mean, and I know exactly where God says, now whether you want to call it Jehovah, Yahweh, however, he said that I created evil for my own pleasure.
Yeah.
That's crazy then. Then
No.
you're going to tell me that then that this devil, the problem why there is no devil, why there is no Satan, there's no demons, is that they would by their actions be directly in line with this God. Even though they're supposed to be the rebellious one, their very
Yeah.
actions show their allegiance to this Hebraic, this Mesopotamian God. And here's the problem. This
Yeah.
God didn't exist, because I can tell you, go right. I have 4 volumes on my shelf over there on the Samaritan scrolls. This God was never found there. Now, if you're saying somehow, then Abram, that who was a Samaritan, who worshiped Diana, the moon goddess, you could say Lilith, the dark light, the dark moon. He leaves and then comes into this plain, which is called basically Mesopotamia, early Canaan, and that he somehow meets this deity, calls itself God, and it is sealed through a contract through the slaying of a bull, in which, I mean, you follow this story, and for me, it doesn't make sense anymore. I
I
mean,
don't
it's
buy
like,
any of it.
yeah,
I
so I
can't
can't
I
use the
can think
Bible as God.
no, I
So
did
then who
no.
created these demons?
I've never been able to use the Bible as God in my whole entire life. It doesn't make sense to me because there's contradictions that I can understand that these are from humans' minds creating these stories, creating these
You
scenarios.
see,
This
here's
is
our whole
us.
point. The demons, when you talk about the demons and the angels, and I'm just putting this out to the chat room and go as well, is that tell me where they came from, because
I
they're
think
not
they
in the
come from
Sumerian folklore.
they're still in the etherical realms, but we are connected to that. So these things can hook into our energy system somehow. And I don't know how quite they do that, but I do have a strong suspicion. The most of the times I've seen it was with extreme substance abuse. Her mom did heroin the whole time she was pregnant with this baby, and she was born not right. And she'd have these violent outbursts and stuff. So as she got older, it got worse and worse and worse. And when I could see her energy field, Wayne, it was broke. Her aura was gray. It was like her life force was definitely altered in a very, very strong way. So, whatever these energies are, they do seem to be able to affect a human vessel, just like you are possessing your body.
No,
You
I
are
get it.
possessing your body. I've seen
But
other
see,
things possess people's bodies.
the point is, what I'm trying to make is that these demons, the angels, they are a self-constructed um, image. They are by all definitions egregores. I don't
Yeah.
believe. You see, I have a lot of time when I'm out working on this, and I'm convinced that this whole thing, as Terrence said, is all wrong. There is no fucking God. There is no fucking consciousness that we know. We've been programmed to think on a level that is so limited and so constricted in its foundation that I think he's right when he said, "One of you have to go above this." Now,
You
there
do because,
is
okay,
a
here we're using language. Okay. You're using the words, word.
thought and
Word.
language,
Right. So what this is this is mental. You're using a mental
which is in
construct
the first
because it's how
principle,
you
the universe is mental.
correct.
All
And
right.
consciousness is not mind. They
So
are not the
consciousness
same.
is it a state of being?
Before, yes. Better, yes, that's a good word. Good word, Wayne. Couldn't put word to it. You just gave it. Thank you. That was good.
I'm
Yes. Yeah,
smart, by
it's
the way.
above mental. So when you can start to determine the difference between a mental thought and a consciousness inspiration, you're starting to bridge the gap between the matrix and what
Okay.
is beyond the matrix.
Well, Alchemist, I'll challenge you on this. So everything that you just said, this person said angels and demons story exist in every culture, not just the Bible. We know this. Yeah, but the problem is they're all human made.
Yeah.
And
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 I
and
do
and
see the
listen,
codex. I do see that. And I do see the myth and I see the allegory. And I also see how you can put it all in your body and name all the body parts like Bethel and all these things you can put into the body. The serpent is going to be the neocortex reptilian brain, and it's going to be associated to the spine. You've got all the different gods.
well,
Those are
here's the other
chakras.
thing.
There's a million ways you can look at that book. A
And
million
Gogo
ways.
said this. Here's the thing. Let's get, if you want to get scholarly about this, the demons didn't exist in the Old Testament.
Right. Only in the new.
And the thing
Mhm.
about it is, where did we get introduced to demons? Does anyone know? Anyone know in the chat room? Can you tell me specifically which book introduced demons?
Was it Paul?
No,
Did
it
he
was the
do
book
it?
of Mark. That was never written by Mark, by the way. In the book of Mark, the Gospel of Mark, however you want to phrase it, is where we are introduced to this new existence of beings. And apparently, reading the story of the Jesus story, it says that whenever he would walk into a town or village, the first thing he did was cast out demons.
And you know what he would also do was he was known to do healings. So I wonder if the healings were the casting out of the demons.
No, the healings would come afterwards. He had to cast out the demons, and they had to have faith, because it also says in the Gospel of John that in one particular city, village he went to, that he could do no great work except to heal a few because of their unbelief. But my whole point, let's not lose track of the point. It is in the Gospel of Mark, the book of Mark, where we are introduced to demons. Now, Paul furthermore took it because Paul was never a Christian.
Mhm.
Paul was he was you would say he would be an occultist.
Mm.
Paul invented this religion, which is really something, but it was only through Paul's insights did we find out this structure, and that would be in Ephesians 6:12. And on top of that, he only gave a very few descriptions of what this is. My whole point to this, we never heard of anything. And if you took the Gospel of Mark out of the New Testament, you wouldn't have demons. It's
Yeah.
just,
You know
it's
what?
a
I
fact,
see
folks.
that too. I think like back in the ancient times, they used to call sickness demons. So they would do the bloodlettings and all this weird
Every
stuff because
sickness
they thought
there,
you
and
had a demon.
you go by the
And
pool of
this goes back
Bethesda.
before the Bible. Yeah, and this is even before Bible. So this goes back for ancient times. So I wonder if, like you said, this is about language, finally having words to give these things. And because I've always been able to see that the human body is very susceptible to interception of energies. And that's why I think they're called
The library
parasites.
Lilith
Because,
brought this out. She said
yeah,
that there were demons assigned to every part of the body and every type of
yes,
sickness. And if you have a
yes,
sickness and if you remove the entity, then guess what? You're going to be
you
healed.
get
And
better. Yeah.
the point is, and I'll just finish out on this. You see, this is the reason why I know it's BS. Because in the Gospel of Mark, here's the thing. Mark 16:16 was added in centuries later, but yet we're using it as canonical scripture. So it's direct manipulation. And I saw Nina say earlier, the church, which is actually the Roman government, it is still the same. They hooked into this. Why? Because we're so gullible that we actually believe that there are these angels and the demons, when in fact, in reality is, we think that we were the first living souls that came to this planet. I contend that there have been trillions. They may not be human, but I'm telling you, they have been here and they're still here. But that's just me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's the frustration, Trina, is that, when you study these things, and I mean, my library shelves are full with grimoires and
Mhm.
all the things on the darkest part of the left-hand path. And I mean, I've read all this and I just go, this is bullshit. I don't deny that
Yes.
these beings exist, but I've
Yes.
got no desire to engage them. And if they
Yes.
want to fight me, well, then I'll listen. I never accepted a bully as a kid. I've gotten my face smashed many a times by bullies, but I always was in the end, got,
Right.
the point is, so
The upper hand.
yeah, thank you. Mary
Yeah.
Witt says the Holy Roman Empire. Exactly. It's the Holy
That's
Roman
right.
Church.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've all been bamboozled our whole lives to give our power away and to look outside of ourselves, because when people start to really see what they are inside of themselves, it's a game changer. You know what they've been showing me recently is that, like, how we've always wondered what the difference between the spirit and the soul is. And we keep going
Hmm.
with this because, we don't really, nobody knows. We just only can, speculate these concepts of thought. So I've been really asking about that lately, and they keep showing me how if you could see your true solar identity of what created your soul spark to come out of this spark, that he's like most people bow and worship that. And it is that he was laughing. He's like, this is your actually just your soul, but people think it's God. And that was like, then I got the concept in my mind. Oh, sons of God. So that big light, that big, huge, loving, all powerful thing a lot of people see. Oh, that could be your soul. But you think it's a God because of your worship programs. So you can't even recognize your own self and the laughter. So yeah, I think I'm onto something with this. And then they were showing me how your soul as this source of light birthed from the greater like sun, because I keep seeing like we're dolls inside of a dolls, but it's a sun giving birth to another sun, giving birth to another sun. These are little balls of light. Some are really big though. So I keep seeing this. They keep showing me these correlations. And then they showed me how the soul is actually fractaled out so many times. I don't know how to put a number on it. I mean, it's probably a number I could say, but visually, I can't say what this number is. It was really big. So we as a soul could literally be like
So
half of a
so
point of a percent of
do
all the beings on the planet currently residing right now could all be part of your soul.
so do demon and angels have souls? Because we have
I think
no. And here's the thing. So all right, so if you go back and you take the story we've been indoctrinated with, and in the second creation, according into the second chapter of Genesis, we know that this God, this alien, it said that it breathed into the nostrils of the man and he became a living soul. Now, according to the Muslims, they do not believe that women have souls because there's no record of this God ever breathing into you. He only breathed into
mhm,
the male.
uh-huh.
So the question then I become, so if we cross over, how do we then, now, if you take Paul's doctrine, in which for many times there have been many different schisms in Christianity that don't believe you have a soul, you just have a spirit. Now,
I think the
Paul,
spirit is above the soul. I really think the spirit is above the soul, just like the consciousness is above the mental construct.
so
That's
which
what I
holds,
see.
and that's where it becomes so the soul holds what? Is it the memories? And we talk about
Memories.
this all the
Yeah.
time.
Wayne, that's
Well,
how I see it. It's through the blood, and it's like a recording device. And it records not only the images that you're getting and the life that you're living, it's also connected to the collective. So it's a vast library of information it's gathering through the experience of interacting with the material world. So I
I love
see that
this
this
group.
is how it creates the Akashic record.
Yeah.
So I think you're onto something with that.
Rick says, I just know my
Yeah,
spirit
they're
guides have
great.
one hell of a sense of humor. And that, I don't know. I don't have these
Yeah.
questions. I mean, I had this dream and it was interesting because, the dream manifested yesterday, spectacular way. And I'm thinking to myself going, all right, so is it truly my spirit that's really actually absorbing all this? Is it, what's the purpose of my soul? If there's no judgment, let's just go in this direction, then why do my soul be judged? Because the Bible in Christendom, it's no longer Christianity, by the way, it's Christendom, but it talks about the saving of your soul, never talks about the saving of your spirit.
Because I don't think you can touch the spirit. It's not yours to
Bingo.
start with. It's part of creation. Yeah, part of creation.
So
So the
that tells
soul
me there's
is
a
the
higher
separation.
essence of myself
Yeah.
somewhere.
Your spirit.
my
Yes.
my my spirit. And it's said that we all only take, I read somewhere in that we take about 35% of the total energy of who we are and we put them into these animated bodies,
And I
so that
think that's of soul. I'm thinking that
it may
part
be the
comes from
soul of what
soul.
would be that energy. Yeah.
I
And that
think if you don't have a soul, what they show me is without the soul, you can't interact with matter because what they show me is the soul is the intermediary link between the plasma and the water. So the soul is the medium into which you can decipher the system you're in. So without the soul template, you couldn't decode any of the realities that you were existing in the material realms. So you have to have a soul, or it's just like they said, Adam wouldn't rise until he was given the breath of life. That's the blending of ether
no, but
and
that's not true.
material matter.
Adam was walking, he was already existing before he had this thing breathed into him.
I think so too. And then they did something
Well,
to him and
that's
put
what
him
it
to
said. That's
sleep.
what they, and
Yeah.
the other thing I have is like my lovely wife, she sees death. She
Yeah.
sees, she sees it.
Every
And
day.
she sees what happens. No, but she knows she's had to be witnessed many times in those transition processes and it's her contention. She says, I don't think it's any soul leaving these bodies. It's a spirit.
I think that too. I wonder if we actually have it backwards, that it's the spirit that's inhabiting the material world, but because then the spirit leaves and goes, but the soul might be the eternal aspect of us. I struggle with that concept all the time. I'm
She
like,
just
which
recently
one is which?
had a patient that
Which one?
was in transition and fighting it. um, fighting the transition. And this person kept saying, um, and it was interesting that there was a person sitting right over there, and this person said, and I quote, "It's the ugliest thing I have ever seen is sitting right there." And when this person was continuing going through this transition, became fluent enough to talk again, and started having this conversation with apparently her sister and another part of the family. They weren't in the room, they were there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
it's like I told her, I said, so what was she talking to? Was it the essence of the soul, or was she talking to the spirit? Because the spirit apparently animates what we look like when we cross over. I don't know if it eventually just loses that um, cohesiveness, but apparently we on the other side, and I don't know if this is how it is always, but and the reason why I can say this is because Lynn has told me this over and over again. People see friends and family.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
I've seen that too. And I've seen when Norman showed up in my hallway when I was a little kid, 3 months after he died, he was wearing his favorite blue jeans and his favorite flannel shirt. That's what
Yeah,
I saw him wearing.
yeah.
And he always wore that. So it was familiar to me. And that's the first time I'd ever seen somebody who I
Oh,
knew that was passed who was in my house. And it freaked me out. But yeah, it
I
was
just can't
he
figure out.
looked
I said,
just the same.
I told my wife, I said, so what was this ugliest thing this person had ever seen sitting in
Right.
the chair? Now, I told her again the thing that when we talk about these things, I said, honey, isn't it weird that in some cases you see spirits that walk on the floors, and then you have others that are hanging up in the ceiling? What
Yeah.
the hell is that? I mean, what is there? I don't know. I mean, what do you have to learn that, the floors really count? I don't know.
You know
Uh,
what I see with that, Wayne? That those are the different dimensions they're existing in, and those are the dimensions they can manifest in. Some of them are lower, so they can get closer to us. And I think the more on the ground they are, the darker and the lower the vibration is. I think the more that you see above or floating 3 feet above or a little bit higher, those are higher vibratory beings. And they're sitting, the dimensions are like, I see them stacked in a small space, like a 5 foot space would hold as many as a lot of dimensions.
when I was 17, I lived in a house that was sponsored by a church for a little while, and one of the
Mhm.
guys that lived there, he was teaching at a seminary. Ray, I'll never forget him. He had this gift of seeing. And what I mean by that, he he saw the spirit realm all the time. Now he told me that he said, because I was enthralled with this. I mean, at
Yeah.
17 years old, I was,
Mhm.
young and stupid. Uh, I'm still young and
Right.
uh, not
You
saying the
used to
stupid
grow up.
part, but he
Right.
told me, he said, Wayne, he said, what people don't realize that he said it's crowded in the ethereal. He says it's really
Yes.
crowded. And
Hmm.
he said you would think that there is this boundless infinity, but he said what he told me is that he said it's we're trapped here. We seem to be for some reason attached here, and it's really crowded. He said they're everywhere. They're not all what we would call in human form. Now, is that where we get the demons and the angels from? I don't know.
I think it is. I
Yeah.
really do. That's my best conclusion to
And
that.
Scotty says, when I was 17, I lived in a shoe. I lived in a place that could be probably fit in a shoe box.
Right?
Gaia said it is very crowded. Yeah, and I've
It
heard
is.
that,
It
that it's
is.
very crowded over there. It's yeah.
Remember, I told you when I was younger, I used to have those visions of doing, I
Happy
was
birthday,
calling,
John Price. I'm sorry.
interesting enough, we were calling it soul retrieval.
Isn't that interesting?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I just got that. And maybe that's why they gave me the vision to help me clarify this. Like I said, I battled this a lot. So I would go to do soul retrieval. Oh, and there were hundreds of thousands of hundreds of thousands of hundreds of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
And as you were
And you
just
weren't
talking,
retrieving a soul per se. Yeah, go ahead.
well, isn't that one of there's a book over there about soul retrieval. I was thinking of the movie Ghost, with Whoopi Goldberg. And
Yeah.
when these spirits find out that another person can see into this realm and talk and they can hear, well, you
Yeah.
can't get rid of them. There's like,
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. F. Kitty
Yeah.
says, when Grandma died, some things came in, but Grandpa did too. We chased them away, and she was talking with Grandpa and passed in peace. There we go.
Awesome.
I
Oh,
love
I
that.
love that.
Well, we've really gone over. Boy, I love this conversation. John Price, happy birthday. It's Gemini time. Hey,
Happy
Ruby,
birthday.
how are you, darling? Good to see you.
Happy
Trina,
birthday.
this has been exciting. It's been a fun discussion.
Yeah,
It's yeah,
I
stimulating.
love
We
the
went
mind
from the
candy.
serious to the
Yeah.
completely esoteric.
Well, there's so much that we don't know, and the only way we're gonna evolve is to understand how our world is actually working and try
Yeah.
to input it in a way that serves all of us, and that means the whole world, not
And
just
Terrence
us. Yeah.
Howard said in his conversation, I've seen a couple of the conversations he had with different people, but he did say, if we can get to the point where we can begin to accept the fact that everything we've been taught is wrong,
Yes.
he said it's very, and
Remember
he's
when
right. He said it's very difficult.
it is? Remember Wayne years ago, you'd always hear me say everything is upside down and backwards.
Yeah, yeah.
That's when that was my formal announcement that I've realized that everything I knew is wrong. I've known this for years, and it is a true, provable fact that everything that we think is true is possibly not. So
And
that
so,
was hard. It
and
is
just
hard.
to wrap this up, this is why I don't think demons are evil, because I've been taught that this God was a God of love, God of compassion, but all I've ever seen from this God is the opposite. Now, if this God is telling me it has an enemy, then the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And again, show me, you Bible scholars, where in the Bible did Satan or Lucifer ever command a human to harm the hair of another human?
Now,
Show
see,
me where it ever sent his demons to kill a human. I
it's
can
not
show you
in,
where
I
Gabriel, it's
don't
not
think
in
it's in,
there,
no,
you
it's
know?
not, but I can tell you, I have seen humans do it.
Well, the thing is, but my point is that
I've
it's
seen them.
not in the canon scriptures of Satan
No,
or Lucifer ever harming one hair of a human. But I can
but
show you where
it's in real
Gabriel,
life.
pardon?
It's in real life. My 10-year-old child grabbed a child from a bunk bed and snapped her spine in half and
Yeah, but that's not
laughed.
Satan. That's not Lucifer. They didn't tell them the
What
children.
is it then? It's an
Why
identity of
wouldn't
a
it have been
dark
Gabriel? Why
personality.
wouldn't it have been because Gabriel?
It could have
Well, my
been.
point
It
is,
sure could
what
have
my
been.
point is,
Yes,
yeah, my whole
yeah.
point is that from my background, my biblical background, where I come out of Christianity, I can't find where this creature is evil. I can't find where it's evil. There's nothing. There's nothing in the written word that other than this being who murders humans on very like that, he committed global genocide and he blames his failures on these beings that I can't find any evidence of them ever being evil. It's
No,
just
but for
me.
some reason, humans have associated evil with these beings and they participate in evil, believing they're appeasing these beings. So even if we cannot find evidence that they have commanded to do these
But
evil
those are
things,
humans
something
doing
about
that.
that. Correct. And what did I tell you? This isn't about God. This is about us.
See, and that's the whole problem I have again with the Gospel of Mark. I've read that. And everything that I've read about demons, I can trace back to that book. And
Yeah.
it's not even written by Mark.
Yeah.
So anyway, All right,
The
folks,
worst
much
part,
love
and
to
it's
you.
not even written on Mark.
Uh, and Paul
That's what I
Jones
said.
says, who's on first? I don't know.
Yeah,
What's on second? You know,
right.
I
That's
don't
what I mean,
know.
Wayne. We know. All we do know is that we don't know because we know that the things we thought that we did know, we're now finding out were not true. So this is kind of where we're at, is trying to find out what is true for you and what
And
is true.
that's what it
And
comes
I've
down
got
to. It's your own truth.
right. And that's where I've gotten to this place. It's like there's no religion now that can fit my belief system because
Yeah,
I believe in something bigger than than what people tell me. I'm no longer going to follow or observe the doctrines or rules or books of man. I'm going to just go into my own wisdom, which is in my own eternal being, and learn from that part of me, which seems to be perfect for what I need to know. So I would
exactly.
suggest for all of us to do that. Go in
Yeah.
you because you know more about you than anybody else ever will.
And that's what you really look at it. And when
Yeah.
it's all of our, we'll all have that moment where we'll make that transition. And you make it by yourself. Your loved ones, they can be standing around and you may have on the other side, but we each go through it. And I guess that's when it really becomes your truth.
You know what, Wayne? It's so interesting. I just got a huge flash when you said that. You know, when I had that vision of me cutting myself out of the serpent, that was what I realized before I had that dream was that all of this is bullshit. Everything that they told me was a lie, even money, how everything works, politics, all of it, the church, all of it. I just saw the holes in everything. And I was like, all of this is probably a simulation, which means this is just a dream from my own conscious stream going into a projected window mirror reflecting material crap. When I realized all of that, it's over. And what I said was, when I die, I will not listen to anything or anyone or anything from this place. I will drop my flesh like it's a rag on the ground. Boom, I'm out of here. And there's nothing or no one that can keep me from getting out of here. And when I realized that, that's when I got the you cut yourself from the bondage of the serpent. So I think once you realize if you're not going to go seek a God after death and you go to seek your own soul, your own central point of creation sitting somewhere in the omniverse, when you decide that you're going to go home to yourself, something happens.
I agree.
Something happens.
I'll end it out with
Yeah.
Gilbert. And I love that. One bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. I love that
Yeah.
song, George Thorogood. By the way, I love them. All right, folks, we went way,
I love
way, way
Phil Good.
over. All right. Well, we love you. Say goodbye, Trina. We'll see each